What's up, players? It's your boy Travis, ICP98. We're doing a quick review of the first album from Limp Bizkit. They were a huge new metal band back in the 2000s, 90s. Nowadays, they're relatively unknown. The biggest difference between nowadays and, metal and back when this band was around is that when they were making records, Limp Bizkit, they were actually on the radio. Now, there's no metal on the radio. I'm sorry, but it's true. Okay, the closest we're gonna get is Linkin Park. Like, they just got a new singer, right? And all of a sudden they're back in the mainstream. Not that they were ever out of the mainstream or anything, but it just goes to show that they're the only metal band that's really gotten a lot of attention recently. I'm sure you can point to other things like Bring Me the Horizon, Knocked Loose, things of that sort, but they're not nearly even close to the top 10, top 40 radio, except when you get bands like Linkin Park. I'm just gonna go over this band, which was a big band for their time. Nowadays, not so much. They definitely heavily influence bands like Linkin Park. We're starting with $3 Bill Y'all by Limp Bizkit from 1997. Now, this is the album that made me realize that they're more than just a pop act. You listen to songs like Rollin' or even Break Stuff, Nookie, and that has this huge layer of gloss on it that you can't really tell is there on this record. Like, it may be there, but there's enough rawness and extreme parts, like with the mixing and with Wes Borland's guitar work, that you can't really tell that they're just a regular top 40 band. I would consider this a perfect record because this is very unique to their discography. Whenever people kind of shit on Fred Durst, they kind of point out the fact that he's this old school rapper, kind of like Vanilla Ice, or just this overall corny guy that sounds like he's straight out of the 80s. And this record isn't innocent of that, but it's definitely noticeable how he's really trying though. Like, sure, he's just trying to be like a Beastie Boys type, and that's his whole style overall. That's how I would describe Fred Durst's vocal ability. On here, he has this fine line between those parts and metal, actual real metal. So to break it down track by track here, let's go into, first we have Pollution, which is the very first actual song on the record, and it's fucking killer, bro. I swear, if you've just heard songs like Rollin' or Nookie or Break Stuff, and then you listen to a song like Pollution, that will blow your mind. How that's even the same band. The guitarist, Wes Borland, is using a 7-string guitar, which is pretty common among bands like this, like Korn, a lot of death metal acts before them, fusing these weird high octave parts and really low chugging. The DJ Lethal parts. DJ Lethal is like the guy on the turntables, and he introduces a lot of great parts to every single song. Most of the time he's bringing something interesting to the table. Like, for example, on this first track, Pollution has this kind of organ-y part. Then you got a song like Counterfeit, which is probably the most well-known song on this record. It's definitely the one that really stood out to me when I first heard it. Like, Counterfeit is so memorable. You got the reverby guitar intro, this very catchy hook. Like, it has that really high pinch harmonic part in the hook. Like, the riff is kind of the main focus. It's clearly influenced by things like Pantera. Like, the fact that people really get on a high pedestal about things like metalcore, and then they'll look at a song like Counterfeit and be like, oh, that's so much different, is confusing to me. They both have the jump the fuck up riffs. They both have an overall band that sounds like a guy like Fred Durst is gonna jump on it. Like, some guy's about to start wrapping it up. Then we're gonna go on to Stuck. Now that might still be my favorite track on this whole record. What's so unique about this specific song on the record is that it's focusing primarily on a bass lead. It even has this bridge that's super funky. I don't really like to focus a lot on funk influence in terms of bands like this, or in general. There's undeniably a serious classic funk element to this song's bridge. And the lyrics are taking the approach of, the predictable new metal, I hate my ex-girlfriend approach to the lyrics, but it's still, done pretty well. So then you got songs like, after that, Nobody Loves Me. That's one of the greatest songs by this band. There's a whole section where he's just doing a Tool impression. And the riff on that and the outro riff, it gets really heavy. I don't know if that's a DJ Lethal part or if it's an actual guitar part, but just listen to the ending of this song. That gets one of the heaviest moments in the nu metal genre. It goes into the song Sour, Now, Sour, it's not one of my favorite songs, but it definitely has a lot of the most catchy moments on the record, and it's some seriously good guitar work from Wes Borland. Like, it's focused around this finger-tapped, kind of psychedelic, Middle Eastern style riff. Then you got the song Stalemate, which is really raising the psychedelic factor as far as it will ever get on this record. It's a song that really deserves its runtime. It's maybe like 6 minutes or something like that. The structure is perfect. It's probably the most experimental they ever got in their entire career. Then you got one of the standout songs, CLUNK. Now, that track is seriously heavy. Now, I hate to use the word heavy or extreme when it comes to new metal, so forgive me for using words like that, but CLUNK has a really fucking nice riff to it. It's one of the only other tracks that's based around a specific bass line. It's definitely a stupid song. And then you got the track Faith, which is a cover. I guess I'll take it back when I said Counterfeit was the most recognized song on the whole record. I mean, yeah, Counterfeit is their most recognized original song from this record, but in reality, their first hit was Faith, which is obviously a cover of the 80s song from George Michael, and they do a really good version of it. The guys who mixed this record said, if you're gonna do a cover of a song, you should probably do your own, like, original spin on it. They even were talking about how usually bands take an older song and then they do a cover of it and then it's really boring and they don't really get creative with it or add their own flavor to it. Limp Bizkit's version of Faith is completely different. They turned this basic pop song from the 80s into kind of a pop punk / metal track. And the ending breakdown seals the whole deal off. Records crashing at the end, I mean, that's a moment you cannot forget. And then it goes on to the track Stinkfinger, which is another track that introduces more psychedelia to this album's mixing. I even forgot to mention, I'll go back to Stinkfinger in a second, but at the end of Faith, there's actually, if you listen to the CD version, there's a rap hidden track. The whole song Faith ends, and then you think you're gonna move on to the next track, and it's actually some little beat switch, like on the Travis Scott song Sicko Mode. Getting back to the song Stinkfinger, like, Fred Durst calls himself an MC, not really a singer, but on this track, I mean, you cannot deny that there's absolutely no rapping to be found here. And then it goes into this track Indigo Flow, which is pretty chill. It only really picks up on the extremity at the end when he starts screaming about loving God. They're just thanking everybody involved in the record. I think Papa Roach did that on their first record, thanking their friends and family, people they toured with. On this track, they shout out a lot of bands they're touring with at this time. And then it goes into one of the highlights of the record, LEECH, which is a quote-unquote demo song. I really wish they made a different version of this track, but they never did. I think the only reason they ever called it a demo version of this song is because it's kind of short. This is definitely the fastest song overall. It's borderline a metalcore song, if you ask me, in terms of the instrumental. And after that, that's pretty much the record. It goes into this, like, maybe 15 minute long section where it's just an instrumental. And people like to label that as post-rock. It's kind of funny the way that people will compare it to something like Swans. But yeah, this is a 10 out of 10. Like I said before, this is the first album that really made me realize how good Limp Bizkit is as a whole. And obviously I always liked songs like My Way. But yeah, 10 out of 10.